We want to give a big shout out to our sponsors. First up, we have Castro's Pool Service and Repair. If you guys need your guys' pool serviced, maintenance, clean, fixed, Castro's Pool Service and Repair is the place to go. Their phone number is 209-675-5418. That's 209-675-5418. Check them out today, guys. Support those that support us.
It's birthday!
I'm Jesse.
I'm Raquel.
This is The Hassle of Hair, a podcast
Going after your dreams.
about going after your dreams.
Okay.
But no, it's a podcast about going after your dreams and finding your passion in life.
Yes.
And we're The Hassle of Hair.
For the Hassle of Hair.
We are The Hassle of Hair. Thanks for listening, guys. Love you. Yeah, welcome back to The Hassle of Hair. We got Ej Erreca, star and talent of the Not So Anonymous with Ej Erreca.
Thanks for having me on, Jesse. It's always been a dream of mine to be a reoccurring guest on the Hassle of Hair podcast. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Feeling famous.
So we're 6 episodes deep.
Yeah, 6
into
episodes
the hassle.
deep.
I mean, into the NSA.
Yeah, not so anonymous.
Yeah.
With Ej Erreca, which feels really odd, even saying that I got a podcast. So thanks for that.
Yeah. I approached you about 3 months ago.
No, you approached me about a year ago.
Oh yeah, a year ago, but you had said no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hesitant about doing it anymore. Like, I enjoy doing it, right? Like, carving out the time to get away and do it is probably the hardest thing. But I'm enjoying the process. I think we're putting something out there that's good. I mean it's good for people to consume. And I think the misconception so far is that, like, the podcast we're doing is just for addicts, right? And so I think once people start listening to it, they might get a better understanding of what addiction looks like. Not only, for their own understanding, but they may have somebody, whether it be a family member or a friend that's struggling, and they might be able to get a better understanding of what that looks like, right? What that person goes through, and yeah.
Well, I'm the perfect example of that.
Right.
Like, I used to think that I was an addict, and I was like, oh, I'm an addict that's not addicted to drugs. And then I started hearing people talk about being an addict. I was like, oh, I'm nowhere near an addict.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm not even close. And it's an actual disease. Like, when I hear people talk about it and I hear them say, like, no, I think it was Gabrielle, who had said, like, there's people out there. It might have been Gabby, I'm not sure. There's people out there that are shooting heroin crying as they do it. And to me, like, I know, like, I knew that already, but, like, for her to say that and for me to think about it, I was like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you're wrecking your life. You know that it's all going downhill, but you still have to inject that drug.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to, and that's the funny thing is a lot of people that are, in addiction or in recovery now have those memories of using against their own will, right? Like, the last time that I used, I was trying to stop using, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm kicked out of my house that I live in with my family, and I was lucky enough to be staying at my dad's house, and I'm going to meetings. I'm trying to stay clean. I can't stay clean. Won't stay clean, and I'm trying to find a rehab that will accept me, and I'm in a bedroom, and I'm putting these pills in my mouth. I'm spitting them out on the floor. I'm crying. I'm picking them back up. I'm sticking them back in my mouth, right? And it's just like, if you visualize it, it's a pretty sad state of affairs, right? Like, using against your own free will, right? Like, that's where it gets you. You don't really see a way out. It's pretty hard at that point to be like, oh, my life can be normal at this. You feel, So I mean, it's a pretty common experience. I guess you're not an addict per se.
Well, it really opened my eyes to not only that, but it just, like, I'm the perfect example of just knowing that this podcast is helping me, because I'm front row watching it and listening to it, and I'm realizing like a lot of problems start off because no one teaches you how to deal with the trauma you had when you were younger, right? Or even the trauma you had as an adult. Like you don't know. People don't give you a direction book on how to deal with it. So a lot of people go to drugs.
Yeah.
And then like it spirals out of control. And then what you guys do at the program, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
At the program is like you're like teaching these people how to deal with it. And most of the time it's just being transparent, being open about what's going on and talking about it and not being judged and knowing that you can do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's hard to understand that you're dealing with trauma if that's just your life, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's just everything that you've lived up into that point is a series of events that are causing you trauma. Like, how do you know that's trauma? That's not just regular life.
Yeah.
Until you get around some people and they say, like, it's not so normal for that to be happening to you as a kid, or it's not so normal for you to, think this is normal, right?
Yeah.
And then even like along the process, like I'm still, if you're in recovery, it's an ongoing process. It's not like, oh, you do this and you're cured, right? And there's layers of denial. And sometimes you don't want to see the stuff you're dealing with too, right? So it takes a long time to get to where, like, a lot of the people that we've interviewed are pretty far along in the process of recovery, so they understand a lot of their traumas. You could be in the process of recovery for years and years and not even really understanding still what the problem is.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the person and what that is, right? Like we talked about it. I think it's been brought up multiple times on the other podcast is, it's a sample size of one. All I know is my life. And to me, my life is normal. Like, even in the car, when we're sharing stories and we're talking on the way down the road, I'm telling you stuff that I don't even think that's like, I'm like, yeah, that's just what happened. You're like, that's crazy, right?
Yeah,
and me, I'm just like, doesn't seem that crazy because that's just what you do when you're in that mode and that world, and that momentum's pushing you a certain direction. Those are just the things you do.
Yeah. It's so wild. It's the one thing that's so cool about the podcast, and I think that I've learned is that it's not only people that have been through the recovery process and still are going through recovery, but and Jesse Ornella said it. He said like your first day, is it graduating? I think your first day out of
like a program or something.
sober living.
Yeah, or like a rehab facility.
Yeah, like a rehab facility. He said like once you graduate, that's not like you graduate and then you're unemployed.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Like,
oh, no, he was talking about college.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same thing with like when you go to rehab, right? You do, like, for me it was a six month inpatient rehab, right? And it's like, you did this thing, right? Like you're like, fuck yeah, man. Like I did it, right? And then people, when you get on the streets, you'd be like, yeah, I just graduated a 6-month rehab facility. And they're like, fucking loser, all right? Like you're 30, but like that's the important part about like staying plugged in, like with like a 12-step fellowship is the people in there. They're like, that's a big fucking, Gabby was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like getting your license when you're like 30 or something, and like you've never had it before. A lot of people in recovery never had things like a ID, right? Simple things, and you'll get applauded in there. They'll be like, good job, right? Because you're on your way to becoming a productive member of society. But if you go tell somebody, like a normie on the street, man, I just got my license, and be like, what are you, 16, right? No, I'm like 35. And they're like, what the fuck's wrong with this person, right? And so it's those simple things that add up to somebody building a life, and you need the proper, support network for, because those are huge steps for people,
Yeah.
Like I've heard so many stories about like people not even knowing like simple hygiene care or how to shop for toothpaste, or
I think you said how to talk to people.
That's for a lot of people that, you're when like looking somebody in the eye and talking to them, like I couldn't do that when I first got clean.
Yeah.
I had a hard time, looking at myself, let alone looking at somebody else in the eye and carrying on a conversation, right?
That was a big deal for me when you told me that. Like, I started looking at myself, and here everybody's, almost all the addicts that you've interviewed all said that. And that was such a big deal for me. It was like I started thinking, it was like, oh, I don't look people in the eye. Like I look down. Like this is someone that when I look at my life, I quit my job. I do things for myself. I went into fighting. Like I've been in the ring. I've been in the cage. I've done things that a lot of people don't do. I've started a podcast. I'm doing all these things. So you'd think I would be courageous, right? And then, but there's this weird thing before I met you where I would just like, I would kind of like do this number and like, have my eyes go around the person I'm talking to. And I don't know if it's a courageous thing or if it's, I don't even know what it was, but I told myself I'm going to look people in the eye. I'm going to talk to them and I'm not going to, I think it's more of like putting yourself down. Yeah. Like when I talk to somebody, I think they're judging me already.
Or you think they're going to look in your eyes and see the real you. Like, like, look at this piece of shit. Right? They're going to see through. I personally don't know what it was. I just know that at a point in my life, I was so down on myself. I didn't even want to look at myself, let alone look another person in the eyes. Right. And not being sure when you're talking to somebody, I don't know. You're not going to say the right thing all the time, and just accepting the fact that I am who I am and I accept myself and letting you see me, right, by looking you in the eyes, How do I expect you to take me seriously if I don't look in your eyes when I'm talking to you, right? Yeah. I don't know. But, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
But I want to thank you. Like, it's honestly, like, this is really helping me with my life, like, more than you know. I'm literally driving to security. I'm driving to do something I'm driving for a job. Yeah. And then I'm going over the hill this morning, and I'm like worried about all this stuff going on in my life. And I'm like, I got this person, I got that person talking to me. I had this person telling me I need to do this, and I have all these things going on. And I don't know if it came from you or it's just, I think it's a couple of people telling me like live in the moment. Yeah. Right? Be in the moment. Be present. Really, really understand that you can't control everything. You're big on that. Yeah. Like you can't control everything. And I'm driving and I just I'm like, what the fuck? I stop. I turn off the music and I just start, I guess you would say praying, I guess. But I just start talking. I'm like, okay, can't control that. You can't control that. Like, what are you grateful for? You're big on that. Yeah. You've taught me that gratitude a lot. And I'm like, I'm telling myself, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful I got a roof over my head. I'm thankful I got this cake job driving over the hill. Like, it's really cake. Yeah. Like, it's a really good job. And I'm thankful for everything I'm doing, the podcast. And I'm like going through, I guess, a gratitude list. Yeah. Right. And then after that, I was just like, fuck yeah. Like, why are you so worried? Like, everything's going good. Like, you can't control everything.
No, you can't control, like, pretty much everything that happens to you. It's just going to happen, right? Yeah. Like, you can control how you respond to certain situations, or if you choose to react, right, which is, we learn not to react but to respond in situations, right? Because you can't, my sponsor always says you can plan the event, not the outcome, right? And things are just going to happen, like life is going to show up. Are you going to show up? That's what you can control, like you can't control what's going to happen. I could walk out this door and get hit by a fucking car. You can't control any of it. I can't control what my kids do, which drives me nuts, right? That's like, for me in my life right now, the hardest thing is what is my teenage daughter going to do next? Yeah. And how am I going to respond to that and not react to it? Because I have a tendency to lose all the stuff that I learned in the last few years when it comes to certain individuals, and then I react instead of respond, Yeah. Or I was just talking to Brandy, like my daughter, my wife, my daughter dupes me more than anybody, right? Like, because I want to trust her so much that she just, every time, right? Like, I can call bullshit on anybody in my life, and I watch them, oh, this person's doing this, they're manipulating that. And then when it comes to her, I'm like, okay, I want to believe you so bad, right? And again, but I'm learning. Yeah. Like, I'm learning. So, it's Yeah, you can't control much, man. And what's funny is watching you through this process of just getting to know these people in recovery, which I think are some of the most amazing people in the world, that are actively working on themselves and trying to become better people, and watching somebody like yourself respond to this, right? And affect their life.
Yeah.
Like you even went as far as making your wife cry on YouTube. like let's just dump the bag right on YouTube, right? But it's cool, and that's what I'm hoping. Because honestly, like we talked about, the mission statement of the podcast is to go out there, put this out there. Hopefully somebody hears it. Hopefully it changes their life. But now it's like broadening. Is like I hope people hear this stuff, in the denial, and not just addicts, like just regular people, because most people are living in denial. They don't see their part in situations. They go around hurting people, whether it's through their words or their actions, and they never sit down and analyze, like, what am I doing? What kind of impact am I making on the people around me? And hopefully that people start tuning into this kind of stuff and say, well, maybe I could apply this to my life too, and maybe I'll be a better person for it, right? So, there's a lot there.
Yeah, and every single one that you've interviewed, it's not like they're just recovered. These are successful people.
Yeah.
Like you look at their lives, and it's like it's not only do people that are addicted to drugs look at it and say, "Oh, I want their life." It's everybody. These people are successful. You have every single person that you've interviewed. I see their life as like, man, even if they weren't addicted, their life would be like really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Like professional fighter Chris Lieben.
Yeah.
You have Rich, who is basically went around the world doing the same thing you are doing, but not in a podcast form.
Yeah.
Like, and, helping people with recovery. I mean, you have Gabby, who has this awesome marriage and awesome life. Like, it's just, and then Daryl and Henry.
Yeah.
Like, those guys are doing it. They're thriving. Like, It's just, like, that's one question I have. Like, what about the people that get out of recovery, right? And then, like, they're clean, but life.
You never get out of recovery, Jesse.
That's how I struggle saying, too. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not out of recovery. But, like, these people that are struggling with being clean and living a fruitful life.
Right here, man. Like, that's the thing, is where do we set our goals, right? And I was sitting with my sponsor in Denny's, and we were doing some work, and we were talking about like where I'm at, how I'm feeling, everything else. Cause I set my goals when I was in treatment, and those are the same goals I've been holding on to, right? To become a good father, to stop letting people down. And he's like, well, it's time to set some new goals because you've gotten pretty complacent. Right. And so, I mean, it just depends on like we see people and we measure success through finances and everything else. Like for some people, it's just being happy, so there's no way to measure what one person wants. Right.
Yeah.
Like we talk about a lot of times, and I'm like, I envy you, for the freedom that you have in your life. Right.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of let it all go and said, we're going to figure it out, and you're figuring it out. Right. And like your days, like the way it's been, like you're pretty free.
Yeah.
You pretty much do what you want when you want, which is what most people want, right? I mean, but then you could look at somebody else's life and be like, man, I want that, right? I think we're just kind of wired that way.
Well, it's not like so I work my ass off.
Yeah.
Like I work my ass, like you just told me, like, before we started, it's like, man, Jesse, how many times, what'd you say about podcasting? Like, oh, you can't get enough of this.
Yeah, right.
Joking. You said it joking. And I'm constantly on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I'm going on to the next thing. And because I know what I love, I know what I'm passionate about, but I also know that I need to put time into it.
Yeah.
It's like it's you could think about it and manifest it. Like people are like, you got to manifest it. It's like, no, you got to fucking work it.
Yeah.
To build it. You
well,
know what I mean?
Manifestation with no action equals nothing, right? but what I meant about that is it's not like you're your own boss.
Yeah.
Right? Like you pick and choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't go in at 8 a.m. and you're not there till 5 p.m. and then your life starts. You've kind of integrated what you're doing into your life to make it all work. And so you're your own boss, right? Yeah. Which is what most people want.
And that's what, like when I first started this podcast, I thought this was like my story.
Yeah.
Right. My story of becoming a professional fighter. Yeah. You know, like quitting my job and professional fighter. They're going to call me Cinderella Man #2. And no, that wasn't it. That wasn't the purpose of this. The purpose of the podcast, because it's greater than me. Like greater, everything I'm doing, it's way greater than me. And it's to show people, like, if you have a passion, if you have a love for something, if you don't like your life, then you have to go after what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right. And like what I've realized, what I'm struggling with right now, and I think I talked to you about it, there needs to be a FedEx guy.
Yeah.
There needs to be a dishwasher. There needs to be these positions, right, in life. And I'm struggling. It was like, how do I tell somebody that? How do I tell the whole world? I'm not telling the whole world, but on my podcast, like, how do I tell people, like, oh, go after what you love? Nobody loves being a fucking dishwasher.
You don't know that. There may be some guy that's washing dishes that's like, this is the fucking greatest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing, is we can't measure somebody's desire,
Yeah.
right? And for every one of you there's another 20, 30, 100
Yeah.
just doing what they know how to do, right? Like, I do what I know how to do. I show up to work every day at the flower shop, and I do that, and I enjoy it at times. Other times I'm like, ugh, you know, but for most of us, that's just our reality, you know, or maybe at the time, I don't know what's going to happen next, you know, but that's what, you know, it's hard to break that cycle.
Yeah.
And just step out into the unknown and say, you know, fuck it, I'm just going to chase my passion.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's the same thing as in, it's 10 times harder going from addiction to saying I'm gonna stop. Like,
yeah.
I know one person now that you've told me plenty of times, like, you can't force somebody to want to be clean. You have to just they're gonna end up wanting to.
Yeah.
Right? I've never seen that in person. I've never dealt with that. And I had to recently, in the last year, like, I dealt with that with a friend, like, constantly going through that. And it's not, to me, it's not a good, it doesn't feel good.
No.
Because you can't do anything, right? And
No.
it's the same thing with your passions. Like, you got to, somebody just has to go after it. You can't force anybody to do anything.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's what drive you insane. You try and control situations, right? Again,
Yeah.
like we're talking about, you don't have control over anything except for the next thing you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, you know, and watching, you know, especially like watching, you know, an addict die a slow death, you know, like, unfortunately, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've seen people die from this disease. I know what it is. And what I like to be like, you just got to do this, right? Like, like all you're going to do is drive yourself crazy. You know, you could be a living example of that, right? And that's what you're doing. You're being a living example of that. And if somebody wants it, they'll be like, hey, man, how'd you do it, right?
Yeah.
And that's all you could do, is just live your life. And if people want the help, whether it be, how did you quit the job and make this work and pursue your passion, or how did you get clean, or how, whatever it is, you know, it's, you know, you know it from being at the gym, you know,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You can't make somebody want it. There's the ones that are going to want it. And then there's some that are, you're going to see they're like uber talented, or they're like, man, this one could be the best one ever. And they don't even care. And then you got somebody that can't do something worth a lick, and they have all the desire, you know. Life isn't fair, man.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny. But it is, like, it is a good podcast, guys. Like, go check it out. It's Not So Anonymous with Ej Erreca. Not So Anonymous with Ej Erreca. Links everywhere. Go check it out. He just interviewed Chris Levin too. What I wanted to get into was, I love your family, man. Like, such a different old school family. Like, you walk into you guys own the Los Banos flower shop.
Yes.
You guys walk into that place, and it's like going back to the old world of sports. Like, you guys are just nonstop talking about the Niners, the what's going on in different sports. Like, you and your brother talk about fighting. Like, it's like a bar, but
Yeah.
with no alcohol.
It depends on who's working. All right. It depends on who's working. It's pretty clean these days. But yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. Like you think it's strange, right? But like that, I've just been there for 20 years, and that's what goes on. You know, I mean, that's our, and I think that's one thing that I do take for granted is the culture of the business that we're in. Like, it's just inviting, like people come in, they hang out, they talk, you know. I don't know. It's just the way I've been raised, you know. I got a good family.
Like, you guys have season tickets to the Niner game?
Yes.
And you guys are there almost, like, you guys, I think you told me the other day, like, you own 15 Niner jerseys?
No, not that many. I own I think it's like 8 or 9 49er jerseys.
Wasn't far off.
It wasn't far. If I had my way,
Yeah.
I'd own like 15 Niner jerseys, or I'd have So I've learned to put a cap on the compulsion of like buying a jersey every time, you know. But that's my problem. Like I like shit. There's no reason that I should have 8 pairs of red shoes in my closet.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, like, and that's the addictive nature I have. Like, I don't need every fucking 49er jersey. But left to my own devices, I would have every fucking Niner jersey, right? That's just like a personality trait of mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's no.
What happened to baseball? I remember growing up, and that's why I say it's like an old school sports talk, because I remember growing up, baseball was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of, I say old school way of talking about sports because I'm an Oakland fan.
Yeah. Nobody talks about Oakland.
They just died out.
Yeah, nobody cares, Jesse.
Like, it's so sad too. Like, when I think about it, like during the Barry Bonds era.
Well, that was the steroid era. That's when everybody watched baseball.
Even after the 60 home runs, like they were still taking roids, right?
Oh yeah, 72 home runs. Or 73.
73.
Yeah, 73.
But they're still taking steroids after that too, right? Like, when Mark McGwire was gone and all that stuff.
Yeah, they're as long as there's professional athletes, there's gonna be steroids.
Oh yeah, they're all on steroids still, right?
Yeah, as long as there's more money, and you know, there's gonna always be people ahead of the curve, you know, taking steroids. If I wasn't in recovery, I'd be on steroids.
But what people don't understand is, like, watching Barry Bonds, if you got to watch him live, watching him hit a ball was insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
He barely, like, it's a smooth swing, and that thing would just go flying.
It's because he was on steroids.
But it's crazy.
Well, and he was, honestly, before that, he probably was one of the best baseball players to ever. He had, like, 2 MVPs, I think, before he ever even got on the Giants.
Yeah.
You know, and then he got huge, and then you put all that power behind it, and you got Barry Bonds.
It's like in video games when you just put your player's stats all the way to 99.
Well, the same year he broke the record for home runs, he broke the record for walks. In the same year.
Well, it was crazy watching that year, because he would go up to bat and you're like, oh, here he goes. They're going to walk him. But then they start pitching him. You're like, oh, he's going to hit a bomb.
Yeah.
And then he hits a bomb.
I forget who they were playing. I think they had like a 2-run lead and the bases were loaded, and they walked Barry Bonds intentionally with the bases loaded. Yeah. You know, like, that's the kind of stuff, right? That's the kind of stuff. But I'm like, honestly, like, I'm so busy these days, I don't even get to watch. Here I am, I'm wearing a Giants hat, matching Drugless Society Giants shirt, and I'm like, you know, they're hard to watch when they lose all the time.
Well, I think that's what it is, man. Being an Oakland fan, because I am. Like, I would be a Raider fan if I didn't get my heart broken for 10 years straight.
Yeah.
Like, and then the A's, you would have one good year, and then all of a sudden it would go 2 years and a really good year, and then all the players are
and
gone.
they yard sell them all to the Yankees. Yeah. Well, for your audience to know, you tell everybody you're a Raider fan, but you're really a closet 49er fan because you watch every 49er game.
Hold on, I watch Niners because my daughter's a Niner fan.
Yeah, that's.
And I watch every game. And then apparently I'm going to the Niner game for
Christmas Eve, because there's nothing you would rather do than go to the 49er game on Christmas Eve.
It's not because I'm making my daughter happy taking her to a Niner game.
No, probably not. Probably not.
But honestly, your family has brought me to love sports again, because I was just into fighting when you first started going to the gym. I was into fighting. Like, I stopped watching football. I stopped watching baseball. I was like, I'm done, dude. Like, Oakland's always having yard sales. Raiders are just the Raiders. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, and you look at what you surrounded yourself in. You know, your passion was fighting.
Yeah.
You know, you were working at a fight gym as a coach. You were doing all these things. Your life was fighting. So of course you're going to gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
You know, and but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like, for me, sports is like a healthy distraction for me. Like, people think I'm dumb because like I root so hard. Like, I'm on the World Cup right now. I'm like, USA, right? But it's like, it's a healthy distraction. It's ups and downs, and when you see somebody achieve something that seems unachievable, you get to take that journey with them, and you get to get excited, and then you get let down. It's just that range of emotions, right? Like, when I was high, I didn't feel nothing. You know, I was just on this steady downward, you know, and so I like getting up. I like getting down. I like getting excited. You know, I'm alive. You know, like,
the World Cup is way different though.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like, I was working at the bar, and it had to been at least 500 people.
Yeah.
On San Pedro Square Martin, San Jose, and USA was playing England, and it was just, the atmosphere was crazy, because like this stage is worldwide. We're in San Jose. These guys are in Qatar.
Yeah.
They represent our country, and it's such a crazy atmosphere, crazy feeling. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it unless it's a really, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, well, it's the biggest sporting event in the world. You know, there's like a third of the population in the world watches soccer.
Yeah.
You know, and like, we're stuck, like, in America, we just think it's all football and baseball. That's what everybody, you know. But I asked a guy that came into the shop. He's an old school Los Banos guy. Probably like 60 or something. And I asked him if he was watching the World Cup, and he's like, "What are you, a pussy?" He's like, "I don't watch fucking soccer," you know. But it's like, it's just that old attitude, you know. And I explained to him why I'm so passionate about, you know, the USA soccer team, you know. And he's like, "Oh, I get that," you know.
Yeah.
But it's just hard. I mean, it's like anything else. Like I would say cricket's stupid, but I think there's more cricket fans in the world than there is baseball fans, you know?
Well, I just had to be in that atmosphere. Once I was in the atmosphere, I was like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm in. Like, I was at the bar. I watched the U.S. versus England, and then we caught the game, the U.S. versus
it was USA versus Iran.
Iran. We watched the
or
US
Iran, because everybody's, it's
Iran. It's Iran.
We say, yeah.
Did you watch? Oh, you showed me that post, the USA player.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but watching that, and then we're in San Diego at a bar, at a chicken
wing
place,
spot.
chicken wing spot, and they legit just started. It was just crazy atmosphere. They're just USA, and it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, nobody has work. Like,
Yeah. Well, those guys probably took work off
Yeah.
to get drunk and watch the USA play. Right? But like, for some people, it's a big deal. You know, even waiting a long time for that. You know, and it's funny because everybody will start jumping on. You know, now they're in the round of 16, and if for some reason they end up beating the Netherlands and going to the round of 8, then it'll start catching the news cycle. But in America, we only care about winners. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they won the World Cup, then everybody would acknowledge them. Like, oh yeah, now we, you know. But it is what it is. You know, that's.
I don't think people understand how big it was for them, not only to tie with England, but to control the whole game.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm still understanding about soccer. Like, controlling the game is such a big deal, where the ball is.
Yeah.
If it's on your side, I mean, if they have to defend the whole entire time, you're pressuring them.
Yeah.
Big time.
Well, it's exhausting because they're chasing the ball the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the funny thing about it, is it's like, you can control the game the whole fucking time, and all it takes is one breakdown, and they score one goal, and it ends 1-0. It don't matter if you control the game the whole time if you can't put the ball in the fucking net.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Like I think that's why I like watching it too, is because it's such a build up, right? You're watching it and you're getting just I guess irritated, right? Or anxious, and then when they do break through, it's just such a like an explosion, you know? Because you watch football, it's like, you know, all these points, even baseball, basically less points, and basketball, tons of points, and then soccer, people are like fucking 1-0. Like, how could that be exciting, right? Or
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's, sports has always been a big deal in our family, and and I think it's good, like being raised with some sort of sports culture in the house, pushing our kids into athletics, of course, letting them choose what they like, but it's team building. There's a lot of good lessons to be learned from being involved with sports,
Yeah. I grew up with like wanting to be an athlete, right? Like a high level athlete. I didn't get high level, but I mean, I was an athlete almost my whole entire life. And then I watch my daughter, who I don't really push to go after that high level.
Yeah.
What I want her to do is just commit to everything.
Yeah.
Like commit to like she just finished cross country, which is not a fun sport to watch. We literally drive like 45 minutes an hour to watch her run for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just, but all the kids got awards, and I could tell that she wasn't really like excited for the award ceremony and stuff. But I let her know, I was like, I'm just proud that you finished. That's accomplishment in its own. And it goes back to that, you saying that USA we want winners.
Yeah.
Right? We want that blue chip prospect out of high school. And sometimes you just got to know that some sports are not yours, but just knowing that she like finished the year, to me, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I'm that same way. But then I fall into that other category too. You want to see them excel as well. Like that clip that goes around of that. I think he's like coaching like 10 or 12-year-old boys, and he tells them, he's like, if your dad tells you it's not about whether you won or lost, it's about if you have fun. He's like, if your dad says that, he's a fucking loser, right? Because you want to win the game.
Yeah.
You want to compete. You
have to want to win. If you don't have a strive,
and that's the other thing, is the commitment. Should turn into competitiveness. In a healthy manner. Like I like my daughter's been playing high level soccer for a long time.
Yeah.
And I try not to get on her too much, because she, honestly, I never played the game. She understands it better than I do, but I could tell when she's trying and when she's not trying.
Yeah.
And so I'll get on her about effort, right? Like if you go out there and you give it all and you get beat by somebody, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you go out there and you half-ass it, even if you win, like what are you learning from that?
Yeah.
Like commitment, I don't know.
That's why watching your daughter, I had to remind myself that because like your daughter's she's talented.
Yeah.
Right? She's talented. Like everything she does.
Frustrating.
But she's really good at anything she does when it comes to sports. And then if I'm being honest, like my daughter's not like that, right? Like she has to work for everything she has, like in any sport that she does. And I had to work on that for myself. Like, okay, you can't put perfect explanation. So she was like 9 years old, and I probably traumatized her for the rest of her life. She was like 9 years old. And when so she's my stepdaughter. So when I first met her, she was like 6 years old. But I was like, okay, I could train her into a blue chip prospect. Here we go. Next best athlete coming out of Los Banos. So I took her to a little park, and I told her we're going to start running. And we did it a few weeks, and then I'd let her stop when she was tired. And then it came to one day where it was just like, okay, I'm not going to let her stop. Right. So she was like crying, like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, we got to, if you want to strive or you want to be successful, you got to push through when you're hurting. And then she's just running the, I don't know if we ran, I think it was a mile. And I was like, she's just running the mile crying. And it's like late at night. I was like, we're not leaving till you finish. Like, and I'll never forget that because I was like, okay, I can't be that dad. I was like, you kind of just got to let them, going back to what we said. It's like you can't force anybody to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I mean, and I've never done that. But I know what it feels like not to push to get your goals, right? Because like through my addiction, there were so many things that I left undone. And there were some things that I was really good at, other things I wasn't that good at, but I knew what it was to quit, right?
Yeah.
And I know the shame and the guilt you feel from quitting.
Yeah.
And that's what I won't allow her to do, is to quit on herself, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's a legitimate reason you're being mistreated, whatever, it's an unhealthy situation, yeah, you need to get out of that. But like quitting on yourself, like knowing there's more in there and you're not giving that effort,
Yeah.
that's what I'll remind her of, you know. I remember we had a conversation, you know, leaving a soccer match, and it was years ago. And we travel, you know, she's on a travel team, so we travel all over the place for her games. And she just dogged it the whole day. You know, whether it was something she was going through, I'm not sure, you know. And I told her, you know, I asked her, I said, you know, do you think your coach puts in a lot of effort, you know, getting out to practice every day? And she's like, yeah. I said, you think we put in a lot of effort, like getting you to practice? Yeah. You think we put in a lot of, you know, effort getting you, you know, to these games? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, I'd appreciate it if you put the same effort out into the field, right? And I don't know if I was wrong for that, you know, but it's just, you know, like you got to teach them, you know, just to try your hardest and whatever. Don't be afraid of failing.
Yeah.
Just try your hardest, and whatever happens, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, raising kids is like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like that's like, and if you're trying, chances are you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Because there's so many parents out there that aren't even trying, you know, and just trying your best, because they don't come with the fucking instruction manual. You know, you just get them, and they're moldable little pieces of clay, and they're gonna choose what they're gonna do. And
For some reason, I was like, you're gonna take that to they're just pieces of shit. So I was like, wait, what?
our kids are just.
I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, no, they're just, you know, and they're gonna make their own decisions, you know, and you just gotta try and be there to help guide them through, and letting them fail is the hardest thing ever, you know, and then helping them learn how to pick themselves back up again and try again, you know.
Yeah, going back to the first episode I interviewed you for, or you came on, not interview, you came on, right? And I told you, it was like, that was a reason why I was like, okay, this guy's cool. He was just a good dad.
Yeah.
Usually I judge people hard, like, on how they are as parents.
Yeah.
If I see that they're shitty parents, I'm like, okay, like, I'm not going to be around them.
Well, and hearing that, right? Hearing that's super rewarding, because a lot of times I think I'm failing my kids, right? Like I was in a pretty dark spot because my wife, she works out of town, and these kids are with me all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like I'm failing these kids at times, right? It's like, but I think every person, you know, in their journey of life, there's certain points where you feel like you're just failing, you know, and like, what are you gonna do? Quit? Or are you gonna just reassess, rebuild, and keep going, you know? And if you quit, like, what are you teaching them, you know? So you just keep trying, you know, and
being fuck. Sorry guys, the dogs are barking. But being durable in your life, I think it's something I'm learning, like, quick. Coco, shut up.
It's too bad you couldn't talk to the kids like that, right?
But being durable, and I'm learning that, like, and it gets, every time you don't give up, every time you keep going forward, or things get hard, you keep going, you just get stronger and stronger.
I think being
stronger.
resilient.
Yeah, resilient
is the word you're searching for, right?
Resilient. But I think we'll end with this. It's like, we went to San Diego. We interviewed. For me, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much of a big deal it was till we got there, because Chris Lieben was right there.
Yeah.
Like, this is somebody we grew up watching.
Well, and a lot of people are like, who the fuck's Chris Lieben?
Yeah.
Right? Like, to me, I was like, holy shit, I've been watching this guy on TV for the better part of like 15 years. I expected to be nervous
Yeah.
like, and interviewing him. That was like, it was such a cool moment. It was like, and for me, it was like, man, this is just another dude in recovery trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was neat, man. Thank you for that, because that was all you.
Yeah.
That was all you. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who knows where this journey's gonna go. It may fizzle out, like a bad fart, or like we might go on this pretty crazy ride and affect people's lives. As long as it affects one person's life, right? Like somebody sees one of those episodes and identifies with one of those guests and makes a decision to get clean or better their lives like that, I think it's all worth it, because all I know is we've been just, and you've been putting in more effort than I have. You sit there and you edit these things and you put them up and you put up these Instagram reels and you do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just get to sit there and have conversations with people. And
I think there's a reason why it's growing, and it's because two people are working at it.
Yeah.
Right? Look it. I'm the one doing the hassle fair. My wife, she's funny. She's the voice of the podcast. But I'm be real. She just sits down and talks.
Yeah.
That's not what you do. And I'm not putting her down. This is my podcast.
Yeah, Raquel, I'm way better than you are. You just heard Jesse say it.
No, but like you're putting the work. Like you're scheduling guests, which is hard in its own right. I don't want to deal with that fucking shit.
Yeah.
That like you have to deal with people canceling. You have to deal with figuring out what time is best. I fucking hate that shit. And then you're dealing with the other stuff. Like it's just there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not just. This is why I thank you all the time. It's not just me. Like I've been doing the tech stuff for a while now, and it's easy to me.
Yeah.
Right? It is time consuming a little bit, but it's not just one person. It's both.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's growing good.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're not making no money off it or anything else. It's like a passion project at this point. And like for you, there's this thing wouldn't be happening if you didn't push me to do it. Like that's the honest facts right there. Like I was not gonna be like, hey, I want to do a podcast, or hey, I want to get in front of a camera or a microphone and talk. Like I do not enjoy. Like I'm getting more comfortable with it, but I do not enjoy this process. I do not enjoy putting myself out there for people to consume and critique and criticize. I don't enjoy this process, honestly, but I do see that there is some sort of benefit, right? Like I had a guy message us. He messaged the Instagram profile the other night. Like, I don't know if you remember who I am, but this is awesome that you're doing. I'm like, of course I know who you are.
Yeah.
Brian R. I know who you are, right? And to get that feedback is awesome. Like people that they're like consuming it and they're enjoying it and it's helping them. Like that's what we're doing it for at the end of the day, right? And so yeah, man, we'll continue to do it as long as we can, and try and be regular. And I have my buddy Donald who's like, listen, like, wait, like, Emil, how come this isn't out yet, right?
It's like, I'm sorry, Donald. It's me though. It's Jesse, the one not doing.
He's like one of four people that call. The only people that call me Emil are people I know from rehab, because we had to use my birth name, and so I have like four people that call me Emil, and yeah, man, it's cool having people support it, like doing something, putting yourself out there, like people don't realize how hard it is, and I'm sure you're used to it now, but you're putting you guys put your whole life out there all the time, for people to critique you and criticize and whatever, it's not a comfortable feeling.
Well, that's why in the beginning, before we even put out, I said, don't listen to the positive or the negative.
I don't even listen to it now. I listened to like the first like 3 or 4 we put it. Like I started listening to it. I'm like, okay, I can listen to myself. It's not that cringy, right?
Yeah.
But like I haven't even listened to like, and I need to listen to Jesse's and I listened to half of Rich's and I'm just like, this isn't for me, right? Like it's for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not that egotistical to where I want to listen to myself talk.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's people out there that think like, oh yeah, he's putting it out there. He's probably jerking off to his own voice, right? He loves himself that much,
Well,
right? But it's like, it's hard to listen to myself.
No, it is hard to listen to yourself, but then I take it as like figuring out what I need to do better,
Yeah.
right? Like, could I have pushed it more? Like, because there's sometimes when you're interviewing somebody where at first I'm trying to be. I'm not saying I learned. I'll say this. I'm trying to be better at it when I interview somebody to not just let them skip by over something.
Yeah.
Because it's too uncomfortable. Like, dig a little bit. See,
Yeah.
like, don't just like, you know what I mean? Like, dig a little. Because there's sometimes I listen to my interviews and I'm like, okay, that was so bland. It was so broad. The answer was so broad. Like, we could have dug a little bit more. And then sometimes it just, people don't want to give that. So you just got to let it go.
Well, and that's the hard thing, like digging deep into people's like especially with the topic that we're dealing with the Not So Anonymous podcast is like people are getting so raw just like even admitting this because they usually admit it under the principle that this is anonymous. People aren't going to go out there and share their shit with everybody they know. And here these people are opening up to put this on a YouTube platform or because for the longest time as a stigma to even say that I'm a recovering addict, right? Like people would look at you like you're broken and what's wrong with you, right? And so for these people to open up and give this to us to give to other people, I think is big enough. So like I have a hard time like digging even harder. Like, hey, this is the question. You answer it however you want to answer it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a hard one to deal with. You know, like the only time I left one of the interviews saying, "Man, I should have asked this question," was with Lieben the last time, is because there was a question I really wanted to ask him, and it wasn't like digging deeper into his private life. It was just a question. But what I was told one time, I chaired a meeting, and for people that don't know what that is, I went into a 12-step meeting. I was asked to share my story, right? And a lot of times it's a hard thing to do at first when you're in recovery, is to go in and share your story, you know. And I had these things in my head that I was gonna say, you know, and that was my ego. Yeah. Right. I was like, oh, I was going to say this, that, the other thing. Right. And I went up there and I chaired this meeting and it just went where it went, you know, and that was it. And people were like, oh, thank you. And this and that. And the guy told me afterwards, he's like, man, you know, I caught the last bit of it, you know, but thanks for coming out and sharing. And I said, man, I'm like, I feel like I didn't even share the best parts that I was going to share. And he's like, oh, so all those people that came up to you afterwards and thanked you, they're liars. Right. And I'm like, no. He's like, well, that's your ego kicking in, right? Like when you got up there and you spoke what you were supposed to speak, that was what God wanted you to say. And all the shit you left out, that was what your ego wanted to say. So it came out like it was supposed to come out, right? And I'm trying to approach the podcast the same way, is just, you know, give these people a platform, ask them certain questions, and whatever comes out, that's what's supposed to come out. And that's perfect, right? And I think you're being a little too hard on yourself too by like, you know, I mean, you always want to do better. But what you do is what you're supposed to do.
I'm crazy.
Yeah. You're not as crazy as you think you are. You know, it's just you want to be better at what you're doing, so you critique yourself, you know, but it comes out the way it's supposed to come out, you know. And that's why I'm getting more comfortable like doing this. Like I didn't have any apprehension today about coming in. And you're like, oh, you want to do the podcast? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, you know. And like that's what it's becoming. It's becoming like you just do it, right? And whatever happens, and whatever, you know.
Fuck yeah.
If you don't like it, fuck you.
Clipping that.
Yeah, if you don't like it, you know what? Fuck you.
I'm putting that on an Instagram reel over and over, like clipping.
Eat a dick, motherfucker. Fuck you. Right? As a matter of fact, you eat a bag full of dicks. Yeah.
But you guys, EJ has a podcast, Not So Anonymous, with Ej Erreca. He just interviewed Chris Lieben. It's coming out Tuesday.
Yeah.
December, what is that? December 6th?
Yeah. No, actually, EJ and Jesse have a podcast.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
called
yeah.
Not So Anonymous. It's just got my name on it, right?
He's the talent.
Yeah.
He's the one. He's already wearing sunglasses.
Sunglasses inside.
Yeah, inside of Los Banos businesses.
No, that's my dad that wears sunglasses inside.
Your dad. I'm not going to interview your dad on my podcast, so you have him on your podcast.
No, we're not interviewing my dad on my podcast.
Okay, well, I'll have him on mine. He is one of my favorite people. That's a
Yeah.
whole hour of talking about stuff. But
Yeah.
thank you, EJ. Thank you
Yeah,
for coming
no
down.
problem.
Thank you for doing the podcast. And Not So Anonymous, guys, with Ej Erreca. Links everywhere, all your podcast platforms. Also, subscribe to both channels, The Hassle of Hair.
Yeah.
Add us on Instagram at Jesse the Hassle Diaz, The Hassle of Hair on Instagram, or Jesse the Hassle Diaz. Add Ej Erreca, Not So Anonymous _ EJ Erreca.
Yeah, even if you don't listen to the podcast, go on there and like and subscribe.
Yeah. And write comments like "fuck you," like
Yeah,
what EJ
just-
said.
Yeah, whatever. Just subscribe to it. Whatever.
But I love you guys. Peace. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.